On this episode of The Failure Report, we examine how Erica Fields distributes rye to the bourbon industry's mega giants while transitioning in her personal life. Alrighty, guys, thank you all so much for joining us on another episode of The Failure Report. I am so excited about being able to interview Ms. Erica Fields. I cannot wait to get into this conversation. We met just by orbiting each other, and I heard a little bit about her story, and I just knew I had to have her on the show. So thank you so much, Erica, for being here with us today. I so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump right in for our listeners and viewers today, and I would love to know, who is Erica Fields?
Well, I'm a slightly older woman who actually I've only been in Louisville for about 4 years. I've been coming here for 40. I've been in the grain industry since I got out of college in the mid 70s. And from 78 until now, I've been supplying the grain rye to the distilling industry. Started out working for a company that my father, Brooks Fields, had worked for. And of course, you know, as kids, we all grew up getting to know a lot of his customers as they would come visit, and came down to Louisville as a kid with him on a couple of his trips. We used to call him the whiskey run. You know, he'd come down here to see his customers, and I think in the summer, now that I'm older and I have my own kids and they're grown, I'm sure my mother had something to do with take the kids, it's summer, you're taking them on this trip.
Right.
Yeah, we thought, oh boy, this is a great idea. Thanks, Dad. You know, and but we had a lot of fun, and so it's an industry that I've been involved in since I was a kid. And then when I got out of school, I started working with my dad. He retired, and I kept the business going for a number of years at that company, which had been bought by a large multinational. And so as their focuses changed and grew, and we were this small specialty company, you know, they couldn't give us the focus we needed. So yeah. I moved around. I ended up moving off to a large US co-op. And they were a great home for a period of time, but again, they were so big that their ability to focus on what we did wasn't really there. Mm-hmm. So then I went to a small family-owned business that had been in the malting side of the industry, supplying malt to the distillers. And this was a spin-off. They had a little mill up in North Dakota, and the owner was an old friend, you know, from the days of being a maltster. And so it made sense for me to take my rye program to his company, and wow. And that you know, and that lasted for about 6-7 years, and then it just was too much for his little company. So I ended up starting Brooks Grain.
That's amazing. So are you all farmers? And excuse my ignorance.
No, we're grain merchants.
Grain merchants.
We buy the grain from farmers directly. A lot of it comes from companies that own grain elevators in areas of North America that are areas where rye is grown. And right. Most of the rye is grown in the northern regions, Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota. For the U.S., where most of what we bring in is from. Also, we bring quite a bit in from Canada, the northern prairies, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. There's some in the east that does come down here from time to time from Ontario, Pennsylvania, in that area. But most of it comes, and so we buy it, we move it then down to a facility here in Louisville and one in Jeffersonville that are owned by our partners, Consolidated Grain and Barge.
Okay.
They own the elevator that's on 15th and Oak in West Louisville. Mm-hmm. And so anyone who may have driven over by, I guess it's right across the street from St. Stephen's. And in fact, they use our parking lot on the weekends. So we have a relationship with them, and they've been great.
That's awesome.
But it's this big old elevator that's been around. Parts of it are over 100 years old.
And it's absolutely beautiful. I drive by there quite often.
Okay, good.
And so I've seen, and it's always the reminder of that. I need to get Erica on the show. And I saw Brooksfield. I was like, I know that's her. I know.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And the sign that you see with our name is on our new mill that we built 2 years ago. The industry has kind of morphed quite a bit over the years. And in the last 10, 15 years, there's a new craft distilling market that has really popped up. And a lot of, some of them are large, like Angels ND and Rabbit Hole, both of whom are customers of ours. But there's a lot of small little distilleries popping up all over the country. And many of them are too small to take large quantities of grain that we would ship to most of the majors and some of the mid-sized distilleries in grain trucks, hopper trucks. So they need it in bags. They need it in a 1-ton tote, something like that. Some of them need it ground and ready to put into their mash. So we built the mill to be able to service that market.
That market as well. How smart is that?
Yeah, and it's great, and it's fun. And some of these guys are great. They all have a dream.
Yeah.
They all are excited, and it's really fun to be able to help them, get it off the ground.
Get it off the ground and provide the services that they need. That is awesome. So whenever, right before we started the show today, I said, Erica, we run a really easy show. We talk about like who you are, what do you do, and then we get right into your failure report. And, I am excited to hear you're not this successful in business without ups and downs. You know what I mean? So so it's just it's impossible.
Been plenty. So
I'm so sure.
I have a lot to choose from.
Yeah, Jesus. So which story will I tell today? It's one of those things that we talk about how failures are the catalyst to success. But there's so many things that stand in our way or even help, or not necessarily help, but cause failures to happen. So, we talk about being a queer individual, being a woman, being now in the South or in the Midwestern Southern region. Some of these things also, lean into some of the failures that we have. So I would love to hear your failure report.
Well, it's interesting because when you first reached out, and I thought to myself, gosh, which of my major blunders is the one that could really, kind of bridge from failure to success? And I guess actually it probably would be when I was working for the company that I did right before I started Brooks Grain. I was, as I had told you earlier, I had left the major co-op in 1999. Excuse me, and I went to work for a company, Minnesota Grain. They had a mill in East Grand Forks, Minnesota, right up on the North Dakota-Minnesota border, only about 100 miles from Canada. Oh, wow. So trust me, it wasn't a lot of fun in January or February.
I'm so sure.
Now, fortunately, we worked in Minneapolis and would go to the plant. We never moved up there. But, it was, and he had been in the industry supplying malt for years. And that's where I had first met him 20, 30 years earlier, back in the mid to late 70s. And he and his brother had split the company in two, and he took the milling side of the business. His brother took the malting. And so he had started this company going forward and needed additional business to really keep the business viable. He needed to kind of expand a little bit. So he knew our program. He knew that I was in a situation where I was kind of stuck. And he approached me and said, "Hey, do you want to come work with me and bring the rye program?" And I said, "Sure." So I did. And that it turned out to be a great move. That's when I had first really gotten involved with my current partners, CGB, because the owner of Minnesota Grain really didn't have the banking lines that could manage the size of inventory that we needed and everything else. Right. But CGB, who was providing the facilities, they own the Oak Street elevator. They had a financial arm, and they said, "Look, we're going to be holding the inventory in our facility, so we'll help finance it." So it was a win-win situation for us. But as things went along, certain things happened in his other side of his business, and things started to become a little bit difficult for him to continue on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess the failure, as it would be, was that I didn't recognize up front when I went to this small company that it ultimately could grow into a problem. And the problem was he was having difficulty in his main business, and was it going to take my business down with it, or what was going to happen? And it led to a lot of sleepless nights.
For sure.
And ultimately, he brought someone in who reorganized it. They put my business separate, and it became Minnesota Grain, Minnesota Grain Marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was me, and CGB was financing everything, and we'd taken on a chunk of the debt that the other company had incurred. And so, all of a sudden I'm starting out behind the 8 ball, but I'm still working for someone else. And eventually, after about a year, I thought, this is really silly, and I guess what I learned from that failure is that the best thing for me to do is take what I do and knowledge that I have, and knowing that I had a built-in partner in CGB, because they really loved the business. It was a lot of grain that was going through their facility.
Mm-hmm.
So they helped me start Brooks Grain, and I worked out an arrangement with the person from Minnesota Grain, and we split ways. So the failure was not recognizing, that I was getting into a company that really couldn't support what I was doing.
Right.
And then I had to figure out how to move on.
And how to get out of that. Yeah, it is so interesting because, we see business deals and opportunities as like all being good. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, this is so great because we can merge what we do and they can do this. And oftentimes you don't know if there's even a reason why that person's approaching you. You may be saving them in the long run, you know what I mean? Or for even the short.
Well, and one of the lessons I learned both from my father and from a number of the old timers and mentors that I had over my career is you really never learn from your successes. You learn from your failures, because when you're successful, the assumption is, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing. And you just move on and probably have a few more bourbons and have a little more fun. And you don't really, really understand fully what's getting you there. It's when you run into a problem, and in my industry, it's easy to happen because there's so many natural occurrences that can kind of turn the tide. You can have a drought, you can have crop failure, you can have natural disasters, things that can occur that you have no control over, and all of a sudden it flips your business from being just moving on autopilot to you have to jump in and make sure everything is covered. So you learn from your failures. So I think you doing this kind of a program is really a smart thing to do.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, because we truly do. And our whole goal is to listen to your failures, your mistakes, other individuals, and use that as a cautionary tale of what not to do, especially whenever it comes to business. But, I have a question is, when you talked about the good old boy system and, saying like, okay, how's this actually going to work? But, being someone that I followed you in your career for so long, and being someone that is such a proud member of the LGBTQ plus community, how have you found working in that community, being the individual that you are? I can only imagine that this is a very male dominated industry, and it has a lot of those setbacks that come along with that. How have you found working in that community? And
well, it's interesting because when I first started out, of course, back in the late 70s, early 80s, that was incredibly true. Not just the bourbon industry, but the grain industry in general. I mean, there were very few people of color. There weren't a lot of women. I was very lucky to get to know a few of the pioneering women in the grain industry who were traders on the Minneapolis Grain Exchange floor, which is where I started. And that's where my dad was a member of the Grain Exchange from the late 50s up until his retirement in '84. I became a member of the exchange in '78, and I'd been in the summer, I worked in the sample room at the Grain Exchange and was a floor clerk. And, I saw this very male dominated business slowly start to bring in talented people that didn't fit that mold. And the distilling industry was already going through a lot of major changes in bringing, and there's still a long way to go, but when I started Brooks Grain, there was already one of the majors had a very strong and talented woman who was in charge of all their procurement.
Wow.
And so I was pre-transition at that point, just at that point in 2007, when I started the business. Shortly thereafter is when I came out and started my transition.
Yeah.
And the business that I do is most of it is annual. I'll make a contract with one of our customers in the summer for the following year. Crop year runs from basically 1st of September through the end of August. And so we'd make a contract.
I'm Dionne Stokes, and I mindfully curated the Ambition Planner for ambitious women of faith like you. I am the CEO and founder of Forensic Marketing Agency, the host of 2 podcasts. I've created a tech company, and I'm a wife. So needless to say, my schedule is ambitious. So I was looking for a planner that was going to be able to keep me spiritually grounded. I was looking for something to be able to provide a budget, give me an hour-by-hour to-do list, and a culturally inclusive planner. And I couldn't find it anywhere. So I took my disappointment and I channeled it into creating the Ambition Planner. You know how they say in 21 days you can break a habit? Well, in 90 days, you can change your life. The Ambition Planner is the only planner that provides you a space where you can focus on your short-term goals so that you can achieve your most ambitious dreams. In addition to helping you to achieve your most ambitious goals, we donate a percentage of every single planner sold to a female-founded nonprofit organization because we believe that when one woman levels up, we all level up. If you would like more information or to purchase an Ambition Planner, please visit our website at theambitionplanner.com and get ready to start on your next ambitious journey.
And then other than talking and making sure that everything was running smoothly, I didn't negotiate with them or really, have to sit down with them. I usually did, but now that I had come out, I had a little bit of time to try and figure out what the heck I was going to do.
Yeah, actually, that is very interesting. So I see you 1 year, and then I see you another year, and you've now transitioned. How was that walking into?
Well, it actually occurred over a period of 2 years. When I first began my transition in late 2007, I came out to my family, and my oldest child is my daughter, Cara. And she and I, when I came out to her, it was really a kind of a funny story. I didn't know what to do. We had been estranged because I had divorced her mother a number of years before, and we just reconnected a couple of years earlier. She had just gotten out of college, and we became close again, and I was really excited. So here I am thinking, okay, well, this is going to be great.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
Could put an end to this.
Right.
So I told her I needed to tell her something very, very important. And she said, "You're not sick." I said, No, it's fine. But so we got together a couple days later for breakfast, and we're sitting in the parking lot, and I start to tear up, and I said, I have to tell you that I'm transgender. And she looked at me, she says, "Jesus Christ, is that all?
Oh,
God, you had cancer. I thought you were going to die. What the hell are you? God, well, you had me so scared." And I'm like, "Really?" And she said, "Look, at my age, do you think I care about, whether you're a trans person or not? That has nothing to do with it, but don't ever scare me like that again."
Wow. That is
I was stunned and very pleased, and it touched my heart.
Absolutely. I can only imagine.
Yeah. So ultimately she was asking the questions, what are you going to do? You just started this business, and I said, well, I got about 8-9 months of contracts that are in place for me to figure it out. And it's not like there's a lot of precedent here. Sure. So it's kind of a work in progress. And she offered to come to work for me. She'd just gotten out of college. she had a job. She'd been working for Ecolab for about a year and a half, but it wasn't, it was an early stage of her career.
Sure.
She said, "Hey, it's you're taking over the business that you did with Grandpa, and now it's yours, and I'd love to carry it on in the family."
That is
So
amazing.
we came to work. We put together a plan to have her become the face of the business while I was transitioning, and then when things were somewhat settled and moving forward, I would come out to the whole industry, and it worked. It's a long story, but the short version is it worked out. Everyone was very supportive. Wow. I wrote letters to every single customer, personal letters, and we maintained the business. It grew. It grew so well, and my daughter got so involved in the distilling side of it that she jumped ship about 3 years ago and started her own little distillery down in Tennessee.
Love it.
She's on the other side of the coin, and my nephew now works for me. He again wanted to carry on his grandpa's footsteps, and had been in the grain industry for a number of years with a large grain company. So he came to work for me 4 years ago. And so, it's kind of a family business. And then we have a young lady that we hired. Her name is Tori Doty, and she does our craft distilling side.
That's amazing. And so it is so encouraging to hear that the story of your daughter, it did make me tear up, but I'm also a sap because I'm like, oh, that is so beautiful. But it is encouraging to hear that that wasn't the end of your story. You know what I mean? You hear so oftentimes individuals are like, I came out after I finished transitioning and it didn't go well. I lost business.
No, and I was really lucky. I can't stress enough that my story isn't typical. And I was fortunate in that I had a very understanding family, a very close family that didn't have deep-rooted, prejudices or whatever about the LGBT community. We grew up. My parents even, we had friends that were gay, and they were, more than welcome in our house. And my parents, were extremely open-hearted people. Right. And we all grew up that way. So that I was very fortunate that way with my family. And then with the business, I think, we were successful, or I had been successful for almost 40 years, 30 years at the time. And so, because I'd been successful in a business that it really is all about, pricing and service and everything else, and quality, that those are the most important things. And those are things that I've been providing. So, yeah. I was lucky enough to do it. And then I had an attitude that this is my journey. That's it. I'm going on it. And yeah. I'm asking all of these people to take the journey with me. Yeah. And it's my responsibility to give them the tools and to help them take that journey with me, because it's my journey. I'm asking them. And I think with that attitude, and with knowing that there are some people that would be uncomfortable with what was going on, just helping people along, and just having a heart and giving back.
Yeah, that is amazing, because I'm sure you've changed the minds and heart sets of so many individuals that are just like that. You're like, it's about the product, it's about the service. You had already achieved great success, you know what I mean? And now they say, like, I'm actually working and can have a relationship, people that are prejudiced, that I can have this same relationship with someone that I never thought I would be able to before. Unfortunately, we meet so many individuals that are on the other side of that coin that are like, I don't know if I could work in close quarters. I don't know how this would feel. I don't, and so it's encouraging to hear your story. And I know that you are such an encouragement to so many other individuals who are transitioning.
And there's a wonderful organization, the NGLCC, National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, that I had been involved with in Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. I became a member. I certified my company at the time as an LGBT certified business, which helped out my customers. They could put us in their diverse supplier spend. And I got involved in the local chapter up there, Quorum, and it was just a great networking opportunity. You got to know a lot of LGBT business owners, and people that work for allied businesses that were supportive. Their employee resource groups were involved and everything like that. And when we came down here, in 2017, they didn't have a chapter.
Right. Yeah. Because I was wondering about that.
So I reached out to our friends in Washington at the NGLCC and asked about it. And it turned out that there were 2 or 3 other people here locally that were making inquiries and really being, with a lot of support from the city and everyone else, trying to figure out how to start a chapter. Well, fortunately, we all kind of got together, and a group of us were able to launch Civitas Regional LGBT Chamber of Commerce in 2019. And it's, other than the fact that the last 6 or 7 months, we really haven't had a lot of meetings or gatherings. We do a little bit of stuff online. The NGLCC reaches out to the businesses with online webinars, etc. And it's been great. My business is no longer certified because, we sold part of it to CGB. It made sense. And, but we're still supportive of all the LGBT businesses, and I'm on the board of the chamber and very involved.
Oh, that is amazing. And as an ally, it warms me to know that there are so many diverse opportunities out there for individuals to be able to get involved, stay connected, and to really be able to grow their business, because it is, as especially just as a Black woman, knowing that it's so hard to break the ceiling. You know what I mean? So
well, and that's the thing. The other thing is, and I recognize that because of the privilege I had before, and the success I'd had in the business that I had been doing for many, many years, I was already above that ceiling, as it were. And so it's incredibly important for me to help people who are trying and struggling to break through, whether they're LGBT, whether they're women, whether they're people of color, whatever. Anywhere I can help out. I just feel I have a responsibility as a human being, and we all do. I mean, the only way you get rid of glass ceilings and things like that is to create a society where everyone is the same, and there's no longer put them in this box, put them in that box.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, Erica, this is the fun part of today. We have a rapid fire questionnaire. Normally, whenever we're face to face, I have my little cue cards here, but COVID has distanced us in ways, but it's been really great in others. But so I want you to, these are rapid fire questions. So first things that come to mind, describe yourself in 3 words.
A big-hearted woman.
Yes, big-hearted woman. Morning or night person?
Morning.
Morning person. On a scale from 1 to 10, how cool are you?
9.
9. I would give you a 10 plus. What is your favorite summer activity?
Meeting with friends over a cocktail at an outdoor event, going to a concert outdoors.
Yes.
Something like that.
Love that. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Where do you want to retire?
Actually, it's changed over the years. Now that we're down here, my wife and I really love Louisville, and to me, it's a great place. Again, being from Minnesota, where it can be 20, 30 below in the middle of the winter, when people complain at 10 above, here we're like, are you kidding? This is not. So I think we're going to make this our hub, and in the heart of the winter, we may spend a month or 2 down south, and in the summer we may go back up north.
Okay, I love it.
Retire here.
You retire here. Who do you most admire?
Boy, that's a tough one.
That's a big one.
If you look at women, someone like Michelle Obama stands out as such a strong woman, and she kind of reminds me of some of the things that I've always strived to do, and that's just to be myself, even though I am different from a lot of people. And she just strives to be herself, even though she is a woman of color, and there's people that may, take swipes at her for that, but she just stands there proud and she's just a good, strong woman.
Yeah, I love that. That's one thing I have to admire about you as well. You can when you walk into the space, you can tell you stand above people. You know, not in a literal way, but just like you have an air about you that's like, I know who I am. I love who I am. I am here. You can't tell me anything. I love that about you. So I could see that being a great not a superhero, person that you would admire, because you all do share a lot of those qualities. Erica, thank you so much for being on our show today. I so appreciate it. And I know we had she's busy. So getting in with this time was super special for me, and I don't take that for granted. So thank you. So where can we find you? Are you on Instagram, Facebook? How can we get some, you're in Angel's Envy, you're in Rabbit Hole Bourbon, so we can taste
our business, our company website is brooksgrain.com. And Tori Doty, who is, she's in her mid-20s and just a wonderful woman. And I'm in my mid-60s. So for me, social media is, I'm on Facebook. I guess I am on Instagram. I have no idea how it works. I'm on LinkedIn. But our website is brooksgrain.com. Tori does post quite a bit on Instagram. I was recently featured on Southern Glazer's new Served Up podcast, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Civitas LGBTQ is our website for, and I think it's .org. I can't tell you right off the top of my head, but it's either .com or .org. Is our Civitas website, and we're on Instagram. Spencer Jenkins, who's a local person, is very involved in managing our communications for Civitas.
Yeah.
And then personally, I'm just on Facebook mainly.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to make sure and link all of those in the description below, because if you are a distiller, you're looking for any of grains, I love that you all do small batch so that we can definitely stay connected. So I will make sure and put all the links so that you can stay connected with Erica Fields in below.
Well, and one last thing about the distilling industry. I mean, we service everyone from Brown-Forman, Jim Beam, and Wild Turkey, all the way down to the new ones that we mentioned earlier. But in the craft space, it's been really fun because there's a lot of neat little new people popping up. I'd like to do a shout out to Moonshine U, who is a local organization here, and they have a distillers course that's amazing. And a lot of the small distillers, whether it's Cave over at Rabbit Hole or Joe, who started Copper and Kings, people like that went through their course and then started their distilleries.
Wow.
So I highly recommend, if anyone's trying to take a look at getting into the industry, that would be a great place to start and talk to them about their courses.
I love that, and that is awesome. So I will definitely be linking that in the description as well. So you get some business knowledge. You got a great touching story. You may have teared up a little bit like I did, and then you get to level up. Definitely, I will link that course in the description below. So anybody that is interested, again, Erica, thank you so much for being on the show today. I so appreciate it.
And I can hardly wait until COVID is over and we can sit down and have a cocktail.
I want a brat.
There you go. We'll bring some more back down from Wisconsin.
I would love that. I would love that. Thank you again, guys. Y'all have a great day.
All right. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you to those who sponsored and supported this episode. And the biggest thank you to Sophia Mobley Photography and Videography for being the dopest producer, sound engineer, and editor in the land. Please like, share, and subscribe at The Failure Report on YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Watch, Instagram, IGTV, and on Twitter at Report Failure since The Failure Report was taken. You can listen on Spotify, iTunes Podcasts, or wherever you consume content. To get notifications on our upcoming episodes, please visit our website at thefailurereport.org. There you can subscribe to become a fellow failure and get access to our blog and merchandise. We have things like mugs, t-shirts, notepads, all the things. I'm Dion Stokes. Thanks so much for listening.